Let's go! We have more spring practice footage to break down today. Comment down below. Are you concerned about LSU's offensive depth going into next year? I'm not talking about during spring, but just overall. And today, LSU opened themselves up for some 2-minute drill for the media to watch. This is via Tiger Details, and as you can see, things are moving really fast. And as of right now, we are playing these clips at full speed. We'll slow it down in just a second to break everything down, but you can't hear it in the background. They are blaring music while this is going on, and you're just getting into the rhythm of things. All right. Now, this is your LSU first team offense, and it's mostly comprised of familiar faces. Okay, so you have Noah Cain right here and BTJ on the outside. Got this guy, he's kind of good. Malik Neighbors in the slot. And your starting offensive line is Will Campbell at left tackle, Garrett Dellinger at left guard, Marlon Martinez at center. At right guard, you have Kimo Makanele, and at right tackle, you have Emory Jones. Right here at tight end is a guy by the name of Giovanni Peterson. Okay, we're slowing this down just a little bit to talk some tight end depth. Okay, so this is a throw you just saw. A little bit of a misfire here by Jayden Daniels. At least he did put that ball out there to where only his guy would catch it. The defender would be on that side of him. But yes, Giovanni Peterson very well could be one of the key tight ends next year. And he is a walk-on, okay? So, very interesting stuff. So, he comes off the field, and Mac Markway, the true freshman, 4-star, is now working with the first-team unit. And a lot of you are familiar with that play right there to Noah Cain, okay? So, the only offensive lineman for this first-team unit that really hasn't played a lot is Kimo Makanele. He's a former 3-star. He's been with the program now a few years. Will he actually be a factor on next year's starting offensive line? I don't know, but he could be a potential depth piece. We just haven't really even seen him play all that much, okay? But as you see, when you slow things down, it becomes very interesting. Over here to the far right is the final player we'll discuss, and it is Kyren Lacy. I know he's not the most popular player on the channel, but the one thing I could say about Kyren Lacy is he is always available, right? And that matters, right? He's not really been banged up. He's pretty much practiced in every practice since he has been at LSU, and that is Mac Markway right there catching that ball. And look, you see Garrett NUSSMEIER here right behind this first group on offense. Well, be ready. You're about to see something you have, I guarantee it, you have never seen before in an LSU practice, okay? And we'll get to that clip in just a second. This is, I believe, the final play of this 2-minute period right here. You see Ricky Collins in the background, and it is a quick pitch to the right to Noah Cain. Bam! I'm looking at you. Yes, you right now. Okay, so I know you've already joined the PHL Patreon because, well, you're getting all those extra breakdowns, you're getting into the Discord, and I want to shout out everybody that has helped make this dream for me a reality. Okay, so now we get to the second team offense, and you see the wide receivers here, Landon Ibieta, Kyle Parker in the slot right here, a true freshman out of Texas. Trey Holly, of course, working as the only other healthy scholarship running back at practice right now for LSU. I know Josh Williams is somewhere here not practicing. And this is Garrett NUSSMEIER. And, well, this is, I guarantee it, I have never seen this in my years of covering LSU football. Thus is throwing this football, obviously, to Kyle Parker on the deep over right here. And the other wide receiver is Chris Hilton. By the way, he is lined up right here. Now, do you notice something interesting about this group over here? 1, 2, 3, 4. LSU does not have enough offensive linemen to have a full group of linemen for the second unit. Normally you have it at least enough players to run for the second unit and maybe not the third, but this is the second string, and it gets even crazier. So before we talk about this offensive line, this is actually Jackson McGohan working essentially as the second string tight end, but really the third because Mac Markway was working with the first group. But you look at the offensive line, there's only one of these guys that's on scholarship, and that's your center, Bo Bordelon. So the other three guys, this is Kels Bush, a walk-on defensive lineman currently playing on the offensive line because of the numbers. And the guys to the right, well, one is from Catholic High. So Wes Woodward, 64, is from Catholic High. He's at right guard. And I believe at right tackle is Jack McDevitt, number 73, a walk-on. Pretty crazy stuff. So LSU right now is only working with the second unit, a 10-person offensive grouping, okay? Now, I think a lot of you remember this play. If you watch PHL, we've done a ton of breakdowns of this play design right here. And if you're watching this on a premiere, I'm going to let you try and guess it. It is a New England Patriots staple, okay? And while we do that and get ready for the next play, this is a 2-minute drill, so, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you only have 10 players. But you can't really scrimmage, and that's the downside of it. And by the way, that play design was Hoss Juke, right? And the Juke route was Kyle Parker right here, who had a really good grade for me coming out. Now, this is actually mesh rail, and I don't know, it just depends on how you read it. Normally, the first read is thrown to the running back. Trey Holly right there, he decided to throw the comeback route to Chris Hilton. And as you can see, you're just going through the 2-minute here. And it's a lot. It's a lot to take in while not having, the numbers. I think this is Scott Woodward here in the background. Pretty crazy that Brian Kelly was in Greenville yesterday for the women's. Let's go, Angel Reese. Let's go. Huh? Beating Utah in the worst officiated game I've ever seen. But still, we're here to talk about football. Now, I know that there are other stories surrounding LSU football, and by the time you're watching this, we had just done a pretty lengthy live stream talking about Jamar Cain leaving for another job. So we'll be discussing that over the next week until LSU actually makes that decision. But I'll link that live stream down below as we see Garrett NUSSMEIER throw a dart out here. We can't even see if it was caught from this angle. So there you go. Once again, not the most exciting stuff. I also want to let it be known here that this is not me panicking about an offensive line during the 5th practice of spring, okay? LSU has a ton of reinforcements coming in for high school player signees. Remember, none of the high school signees were early enrollees, including Lance Hurd, who's coming in with a ton of hype. And, of course, you got the Mason Lunsford transfer coming in for Maryland. So LSU has 5 more scholarship offensive linemen coming in, and don't forget a key piece, Charles Turner is not available. Also at tight end, you guys know that Mason Taylor, the stud tight end as a true freshman last year, he is also not available. This was actually kind of interesting here on this pitch. This actually looked like it was a forward pass right here. And it was. Good hands right there by Trey Holly. So, yeah, it's... I don't want people to take what I've said as, oh, my goodness, the world is falling apart because we don't have depth on the offensive line. LSU does. It's just not there during this point of spring. Alrighty, so now we get to the funnest part of today's video, a extra point from Damian Ramos. So you see Jay Bramblett is the holder, and as you can see, LSU doing the first special teams work that we have seen from our vantage point. Okay, so, it is interesting, tricky, however you want to, describe it, with no solo special teams coach, as Brian Kelly has emphasized the decentralized approach to actually coaching special teams. This is Brad Davis. This is Frank Wilson. I believe this is Mike Denbrock. Can't tell you a gazillion percent. So, yeah, once again, it's going to take a village, right? So Quincy Wiggins actually did a good job on special teams when he actually played. But you see, it is mostly offensive players. Giovanni Peterson here as the end guy. And this obviously is going to be something that LSU is going to make sure they have ready to go for the season opener versus Florida State. I think a lot of you still have some nightmares from that game. So there you go. So, as you can see, this is the more broken down part of it. This is a focus of the center of the field goal block team, and this is the edge part of the field goal block team. So you see Jackson Howard here working with that, and then obviously you see Brad Davis working with the middle. So this is just the early stages. Once again, even with missing 7 scholarship offensive linemen, those guys are still going to be involved in this as well. So, once again, they're just going through it right now. This won't be, the final say-so. But one thing I will mention while things are, slowed down quite a bit is all the different guests that are at practice. Oftentimes they are recruits. As our buddy Blake Ruffino brought up on our channel recently, Trades Green was here, the elite tight end for the class of 2024. Colin Hurley was at a practice not too long ago. So just to let you know, whenever these spring practices happen, a lot of it isn't, and that was a doink right here. We had some doinkage. Or was that a doink? Wait, where is that ball coming from? Let's see. Oh, that's him. Oh, okay, that was a different ball right there. But, there's so many guests that are at practice. Not all of these guys are players or current staffers, right? So that just gives you an insight that some of the spring practice, the bonus of spring practice is just, to show off the program to recruits and potential boosters and supporters that actually come as the guest of LSU football. So now we get to this, and we won't talk too much defense today. It is good to see, the special teams and all that show up. But this was the last practice with Jamar Cain. So Jamar Cain did inform the defensive line before practice even began that he was leaving them for the Denver Broncos, okay? Now, if you are a diehard PHLer, you were there for the 2-hour live stream. Our buddy Blake Ruffino joined in, and we did a full breakdown of what exactly happened, right? And essentially, long story short, when you get an NFL opportunity, you're not always guaranteed you're going to get another one, right? And I know a lot of you feel, as we move on to another position group here, these are the LSU DBs getting some work in. It looks like this is the nickel and safety group right here. But it is tough, right? The coaching profession for assistants is very volatile, even more so than for head coaches, right? You go from job to job to job to job. And I highly recommend any one of you go look at any assistant coach's profile on Wikipedia, and you'll see how often coaches just bounce around, right? And that is essentially what Jamar Cain's career has been. He is a very coveted coach by many, right? And, we all have our opinions on the situation. So what I'll do is, at the end of this video, in just a second, I will float the full 2-hour live stream that we did on Jamar Cain in front of your face. You could click on it and you could get my further thoughts on the matter. But since you're here right now, LSU is going to be fine. Ultimately, that is a question that we need to get answered. Will LSU be okay? I think they will. And I feel as if LSU is going to find somebody that also really wants to be here. So we'll see how all of that actually turns out. This is a very interesting tackling drill with Coach Steeples working with 2 jack linebackers and a traditional LB, right? Greg Penn, Jackson Howard, and Ovi Agufu. So yeah, we'll see how all of this works out. This is Bobby Barham, a recruiting specialist here. But yeah, it's the nature of the business. Whether you are an assistant coach, a staffer, any of that, there's so many different jobs that you'll have throughout your career. It is quite amazing. So best of luck to Coach Cain. He's not going to another SEC school, which is key, and hopefully LSU finds someone really good to replace him. Alrighty, so here at the end, and we like to do this during spring, let's chat about potential sleepers. And one of those guys is Landon Ibieta. Okay, so the first thing that's really good, and I get a lot of questions about these deeper cut players. He's getting the second string reps. So Kyle Parker and Chris Hilton. And we broke down these reps, but now we get a little bit of a wider angle here from on 3. Okay? Now, some of you from earlier might be asking, well, what is Hoss Juke? What was he talking about earlier? Well, it is goes from the slots, and the 5th receiver. Notice this is out of empty, and remember we only have 4 offensive linemen here, so only 10 players on the field. Your job as the receiver here is to sprint, clear out the space for 12 to cut over the middle on the juke route, okay? LSU ran that play a lot last year. Now, I think the number 3 wide receiver spot behind Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors is still wide open, right? I don't think a lot of you are on fire about Kyron Lacey because of the Texas A&M drops, right? But Landon Ibieta is very interesting, right? Like Chris Hilton, known for his speed, very productive high school player, but in their first couple of seasons, Chris Hilton's first couple of seasons and Landon's first season, you have these injuries that pop up. And I get asked all the time, there's Ibieta making a catch. Well, why don't we at least see them as a returner, right? Can we try them at punt return, kick return, use their speed as an advantage? We'll see. But, with Landon, I know Grant Yenny, who's a big supporter, has covered Landon for quite some time. He still believes in him. And I know a lot of you still believe in him as well. And look at this catch right here. I know it's cut off. He catches it and was able to stay in bounds. I know he's playing against air. But, Ibieta's got a shot. He's got a shot to be a big part of LSU's offense next season. But there's just so much competition at the LSU wide receiver spot. And keep in mind, Shelton Sampson and Kai Prean aren't there yet. So we'll see. I would like to see Landon get some touches maybe in the spring game or in an upcoming scrimmage to see what he can really bring. But as of right now, he's working with the 2s. And Jaylen Brown is a guy that's very talented. It is interesting to see Kyle Parker getting the second team reps over Jaylen Brown up to this point. But nothing is set in stone, and any receiver can take the can take the reins and be a part of LSU's offense. Also, if LSU develops a really good tight end outside of Mason Taylor, they might run more 12 personnel where there is only 2 wide receivers on the field at one point. But up to this point, it is interesting to note that Kyron Lacey is playing the other outside receiver. So comment down below. Are you concerned about LSU's overall offensive depth? Let me know. I am genuinely curious to hear what you guys have to say. And we'll talk to you soon. It is Power Hour LSU. Bam! Don't forget, Floating in Your Face, our Jamar Cain show from earlier, and our all-defense practice breakdown from yesterday. And tonight, we are doing... crawfish. My buddy Dane just called me to come get some crawfish. Crawfish is going to be good when he said, hey, I can't tell you where I am, but I'll drop a pin. Yeah, you know, whenever you got to go out in the boondocks, that crawfish about to be good. Let's go.